Welcome to Tango Teach. My name is Ian Matthews and I'm the Education Consultant for Osborne Technologies, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the features that you've already seen in Tango Teach and making them into a bit of a lesson. This is by no means to suggest that this is the right way to do it. This is simply a way to do it. So all the stuff you see here is going to be just a way into the world of Tango. This is the splash screen. This is the home screen, as you may have been shown before. In effect, we call it the splash screen partly because it gives that lovely effect of something that's watery, liquid, something to encourage people to go and actually play with it, to touch it, to move around with it. But splash screen in our context also means home screen. So from here, from the home screen, this is where you'll be able to see the categories of lessons that you may have already created or categories that you might want to create. So under category itself, you have a tile. Pressing this will bring up a category name to which we could write something on the lines of English literature. And saving that will allow that to come into the file line here, so English literature. Underneath this we can then add a subcategory and further still a category of lesson itself. However, don't worry too much about that as a starting point. You can also build a lesson right from the beginning by simply pressing the green plus arrow button. So when you open up the workspace for the first time, you'll see a drawing tools icons already open. And from here, you can select a pen, select a colour if you desire, select a line size, and you can write simply something along the lines of hello. I can change the pen type. I can change the colour, I can change the size as I go from here. So if I wanted to add something on the size of a crayon in blue, and I was to underline it, you can do that. I can also undo and redo from here, along with the option to edit with an eraser, taking off parts as I go. What Tango does well, however, is not so much just writing, it's manipulating something that has been written or has been brought in. When I press this tick button, or deselect one of the pens as it's on at the minute, if I press tick, it turns what is on the screen into an active image. And that active image can be manipulated. One finger will move it. Two fingers in opposition, in a pinch, so pinch like this or pinch like this, will move what you have on screen, rotate it, and so on. Like we had on the splash screen, pressing and holding on the background of this image will bring up a contextual object menu. So if I wanted to, I could pin this right into location and it will stick. I can press and hold it again, unpin it, press and hold it, link to a web page. And if I wanted to link it to the BBC, say www.bbc.co.uk. I've now made that into an active link. I'm double tapping it, will drop out of Tango and take us to the BBC website. Tango itself will continue to run, and that's represented by this floating toolbar that sort of sticks to the right hand side of the screen. It's here that I could also continue to write and highlight different areas of what's on screen, grab it, and potentially then bring it back into the Tango workspace again. With that idea in mind of being able to bring stuff into a workspace and use it in that regard, content is king. That means that if you press the content banner here, it'll bring in the option of a file, a map, and a camera button. The file button will open up effectively a search banner within the PC or Mac or whatever platform you're running it on. On this example, I can access my C drive, my D drive, E drive, desktop, and so on from the banner on the side, and it's from here that I can access certain Tango resources, say, and within that, example lessons and a media lesson. A media lesson is a folder that I've had for a number of years, containing all the bits and pieces that I've used for media classes that I've taught in the past. So I have PowerPoints, I have Word documents, I have videos, PDFs, JPEGs, all sorts, and it will all be able to be brought into this workspace either by tapping individually, or if I wanted to, I could select a number, I drag my finger, and pressing add to workspace. Each of these will then be brought into the workspace, and I can manipulate in the same way as I did with the first active image. So this is a PowerPoint, and I can go through my PowerPoint, working through learning objectives in the way that I would have done previously. However, what I can also do is annotate on this object. I can choose a correct colour that would stand out, let's say, and I want to really make it understood that today we're going to not necessarily worry about these two, we're going to identify how to structure the essay in the time allotted. That's the important part of today's session. So I want people to remember that. So once I've annotated on it, it'll stick on that page, in that place, in that way, and if I go back to it, it still remains. I often say that when it comes to writing things like exam answers or exam prep helps, scaffolds and so on, that it's all very well and good to say, here we have some really good, interesting stuff that you can use, but it's making sure that the kids, learners, understand what that is. If I wanted to say, make sure they'd understood this and actually read it, what I could do, as I showed you before, there's a crop function. I could crop bits, paragraphs out of this, move them out, and if I move all of these out, I could lay them into a grid, a line, using the tools options, let's say, the layout, sorry. I could grid them, I could line them, or I could throw them. So if I had, let's say, a number of these paragraphs and I threw them across the screen, I could then get people to come to the board, remove them again, and then also develop an understanding of what the scaffold is. So rather than them just saying, yeah, I read it, they actually have to make it themselves and understand it and show their understanding as they go. So this is a dinosaur lesson, basically to talk about 6 specific different types of dinosaur. This then leads on to a geology lesson that we're going to be doing, let's say, in year 4 for the differences between, I don't know, Jurassic era rocks compared to I don't know, I'm not very good at this sort of stuff. The idea of moving between 2 different time periods. We can build in an understanding of that via dinosaur bones, fossils and so on. So I've brought in 6 images and a background. Add to workspace. I want this to be my background. So I bring this image across, press and hold, set as background. Press and hold, delete the original image, because now I don't need it. I have, however, still got my images. These are all PNG images, because PNG images work really nicely in a sort of sticker book effect for this style of environment. I can bring in this big guy here, I could bring him right into the foreground, or I could minimise, put it into the background, as if somehow perspective is over there instead. I want these guys to be not just one, but I want a number of them, so I can duplicate. I could then group. So these are now to the group as we go through. Okay. Effectively, just trying to help you build stuff quickly and easily. If I was doing something, say, with this guy, T-Rex, I want to make the second page of this this lesson about this guy. I can swipe on the background to allow the creation of the second page. And the 2 pages will be represented by the bubbles at the bottom. Go back again by swiping left, as I would be on a tablet. And I'm going to link this guy in the same way I sort of did with the website, by pressing and holding, but rather than link to web page, I'm going to link to page 2. So when I double tap in, it's going to take us through to page 2. Back to content, and on page 2, so I've got it planned down here, I've got some resources, a blue-grey background, a T-Rex, a PDF, and a video. So like before, I'm going to set that as background. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to move this stuff around here. Video is going to be what is delivering our information for the session, but I may have got this T-Rex info pack as the thing that I want the kids to be working from. So I may have printed this up before, I may have exported it to their devices, or I could do it from here, just by pressing here, print current page, export document, or share. Now to share something you need to be collaborating, and we'll show you how to do that later on. But it allows me to then just send stuff to a specific device or a specific group of devices. Answers can then come back from those devices to our workspace. But for now though, I just kind of want to answer some of these questions. So we've got how many teeth did the T-Rex have, for instance, is our first question on this page. So I'm going to move that to the side, bring this up here, and just press. So, if there was something specifically I wanted from here, there's a volume scrub at the top as you see. So I could just turn the volume down and carry on. there might be some specific information. Now, I think it's about here on the scrubber. If I go along here, you can see I'll go back and forth across the video as well. If I pick out, there's a section somewhere, I haven't checked this for a while, where effectively it's going to say what dimensions it has, teeth size and so on. But what I want to do specifically is capture that, so let's say it was that bit. Just by tapping the camera at the top, I can bring that in. If it was that the area was telling us something quite specific, the narrative, this guy is saying that when it comes to the size of a skull, for example, it might be that it's, I don't know, the size of a T-Rex head here ranges between 4 feet and 5 feet in diameter, let's say. Snapping that, we'll take it out with that annotation as well on top of it, and we can build our own data bank of resources purely from videos. Okay? Adding to it then, so if I were to add anything else to this, see how it re-renders as well. PDFs, Word documents and so on always re-render, so that not just necessarily going full screen will provide a way to get the information across to the kids. If you have short-sighted students who sit at the back, that may not even still work, even with a screen this size. So going beyond the size of the screen is very helpful in that regard as well. So that's kind of how you would put a basic few areas, few ideas into Tango. We can do that from stuff that's already been created. So if I close this without saving and go into some of the content I've brought in, so I'm going to Tango content, example sessions, and dinosaurs. Okay, so the first couple of pages will be blank, as you would have seen me do that already in this session, but effectively this is then what you start creating. You can start building up a number of pages in a sort of this is what we've done earlier approach, or you could be doing it live. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's entirely up to the teacher and how they want to use it. If I wanted to bring something specific based on the fact that a learner has said, well, this video, there's loads of information about Triceratops, but it doesn't actually say whereabouts in the world it came from. Okay, well, under content, not only do you have information that you can bring in from the left-hand banner here, you can also search the internet for extra resources. So if I tap this search banner at the top, type in Triceratops, I don't know how to spell it, Triceratops geography, let's see if that comes in. Typing anything here will search the internet alongside the local content to see if there's any reasonable information here. I wouldn't rely on this as a teaching method, but it does mean that if someone were to ask you something that you may not necessarily be able to identify, well, the suggestion here is that Utah might be a place. So I can bring in a specific image of what I imagine would have been the present day shoreline of America, but previous landmasses in that time period, when Triceratops roamed, were here as well. I could add that, if I click on the map function here, I could find that landmass. I could go to a Google map that I can bring in, and I can unlock and go to what appears to be the US here. Take a snapshot of that, change the map type from here, so I'm going to go to aerial, take a second map shot here, and bring that in there. Don't need that anymore, so I'm going to delete it. So, the present day shoreline you can just about make out there of the US. I'm going to lay over this image onto there, give a take, that should be about right. And I've also then got a transparency button which I could then blend through to say, well, if that present day shoreline image isn't really helping the learners, they can't really picture what it would have been like or where it is compared to now, well, I can bring that in just by moving my finger up and down the transparency banner here as well. Now we've got some content on the screen, we might want to share this and receive some files back and forth from our learners. So an example of what we have here, carrying on with the dinosaur lesson, we have a PNG of the Stegosaurus, a video, some relative information regarding it, but we haven't got necessarily whereabouts on the planet the Stegosaurus moved around during the Jurassic period. So we might want to send this specific image to our learners. We might want them to specifically write something on it, the answers they find, and send it back to us. Tango allows 1 to 32 device collaboration, which means that from this one license you can send the information from it to up to 32 different devices. That can be iPads, that can be any Android tablets, Chromebooks, netbooks, anything really, as long as you've got access to the internet. And the way you would link these devices to this Tango license is via the collaboration function at the bottom of the toolbar. If it's green on the left hand side, it basically means that it's going to be accessible. Turning it on and off is a question of just making sure that the cloud function is on green on the right hand side of the buttons. And then we go to the QR reader. Now, if you've got the Tango multi-touch app, which is available on iOS devices, iPads, you can simply download that from the App Store, and it will ask you, do you want to link up via QR code? You press yes, and it will read this QR code we have here. On the other hand, if you don't have an iOS device, you can also do this via any QR reader, because it's taking you to a website effectively. It's taking you to this website, which you can see on this URL. So if you have a netbook that doesn't have a QR code, for example, you can still just type in this URL and it will take you to this webpage. Similarly, we have a PIN code, which once you log on, it will ask for your name and it will ask for a PIN code. The PIN code relates to this specific lesson. And that allows that, yes, even if you are on the same network, but you're in a different classroom, let's say, you still have to have this specific PIN code to be able to access this lesson content. Once we have the devices connected, anything that I then want to send to a device, I can press and hold on a specific item, choose Share, and select the names from the Share menu. If I have a number of students, I can send to all clients at the bottom, or I could select individual names as we go. Pressing Send will then send that image to the device, from which the learner can annotate, make notes, find other images to add the points. Hopefully we've been able to show you how Tango Teach can help your learners and help you create some interesting and fun lessons. If you want any extra help, however, on the splash screen you can also access the Tango Cloud. From here you'll be able to see example lessons, tutorials, and most importantly the Tango Teach walkthrough. The Tango Teach walkthrough is a place where you and a small group of teachers can sit and work through perhaps an hour's worth of session in order to figure out how to specifically use Tango in a way that suits you.